Hello everyone, welcome to VISHNU IAS. Today we are going to see another important topic from recent current affairs, that is election system in America and whether Trump can delay elections. Okay, so in this video we will be discussing about how the US president election will be taking place, what are the eligibility criteria, and whether Trump can delay elections and what are the procedures. Okay, first let's see about US presidential election. Okay, so when you see about the US presidential election, so the election to the president and the vice president of United States is an indirect election. Okay, so the citizens of the United States who are registered to vote in one of the 50 US states or in the Washington DC, they will be casting their votes, okay, not directly for those offices but instead for the members of the electoral colleges. Okay, so these electors then cast direct votes known as electoral votes for the president and for vice president. So this is how the election in US takes place. So it is an indirect election. So the election of the president and the vice president of the United States is indirect election in which citizens of the US who are registered to vote in one of the 50 US states or in Washington DC cast ballots not directly for those offices. They are not casting votes directly for them, but instead for members of the electoral college. Okay, they will be voting for the electoral college to choose the members of electoral college. After that, these electors, okay, these electors then cast direct votes known as electoral votes. So through these electoral votes, they will be choosing the president and vice president, and those candidates who receives an absolute majority of these electoral votes, okay, these votes which are cast by the electors. So those people who got those candidate who receives the majority of electoral votes, that is at least 270 out of 538, they should get out at least 270 out of 538, they should get minimum 270. Okay, this is from since 23rd Amendment granted voting rights to the citizens of DC. Okay, is then elected to the office. Okay, so the person who is the candidate who is getting the majority electoral, absolute majority of electoral, that is minimum of 270 votes they should get. Okay, at least 270 out of 538. Okay, this is since the 23rd Amendment. Okay, so they will be choosing the candidate. So if no candidate receives an absolute majority of the votes for president, the House of the Representatives choose the most qualifying candidate. Okay, so if no candidate receives an absolute majority of the vote, okay, that is nobody received at a minimum of 270 vote. Okay, so if no candidate receives an absolute majority of the votes for the president, then what will happen is the House of Representatives, they will choose the qualifying candidate for the presidency. If no one receives absolute majority of the votes for vice president, then Senate elects the vice president. That is, if when they take this election is completely the indirect election, okay, so where the people will be choosing members of the electoral college. These electors cast their votes for, which is known as the electoral votes, for choosing the president and vice president of US, and the candidate who receives the absolute majority of the electoral votes, that is at least 270 or 570 out of 538, they will be chosen as the winner. Okay, they will be elected. Okay, if no candidate receives an absolute majority of the votes, okay, for the post of president, House of Representatives will choose the most qualifying candidate. Okay, and if no one receives the absolute majority for to be chosen as an vice president, then the Senate will elect the person for vice president. Okay, this is how the US presidential election takes place. So eligibility. So when you see what is the eligibility of a person to get elected is Article 2 of the Constitution. Okay, it's US Constitution. Okay, Article 2 of the Constitution stipulates that for a person to serve as a president, the individual must be natural born citizen of United States. They should be a natural born citizen of United States, and they should be at least 35 years old. Okay, this is according to the Article 2 of the Constitution. for a person to serve as the president, he must be a natural born citizen of United States and at least 35 years old and a resident of US for a period of no less than 14 years. Okay, that is, they should be a resident of the United States, okay, for 14 years and above only they can take part in the election. Okay, that is also there. And also a candidate may start running his or her campaign early before turning 35 years old or completing 14 years of residency, but they should meet the age, that is 35 years old they should be, right? So they should be qualifying with the age 35 years old and the residency requirements by inauguration day. But before that itself they can start the campaign, but they should meet the requirement. Next is 22nd Amendment of the Constitution. It also sets the term limit. Okay, so how many for how long a person can be elected as a president is, a president cannot be elected to more than 2 terms. Okay, they can be only for 2 terms they can be in the post of president, not for more than 2 terms they cannot be elected as the president. Okay, so that is about the eligibility criteria. This is a basic of US election. So let's get into the context. Okay, when you see what is the context is, what happened is the US President Donald Trump, he said that the November elections be delayed due to COVID-19 pandemic. So this was being suggested by US President Donald Trump. Okay, so that was the context, main context. Okay, so the US President Donald Trump has suggested the November elections to be delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Okay, Trump has displayed residence for mail-in voting, making claims of rigid election. That is, Trump has showed his resistance. Okay, he was against the mail-in voting. So he is claiming that this he claims of a rigid election. Okay, he makes a claim of a rigid election, and he was completely against the mail-in voting. And what he implied is, what he said is, through this mail-in voting, this would allow election fraud to occur. Okay, and on a widespread scale across the United States, and without offering any evidence, this mail-in voting would allow the election fraud. This was implied by Trump. Okay, as of now, that we have seen that Trump has suggested the delay and he was against the mail-in voting. So whether does the US president has this power? Okay, does the US president has the power to delay the election because of any reason? Okay, so whether this is possible or not. Okay, so when you see, according to the US Constitution, it is Congress, not the president, that decides the timing of elections. Okay, when the election should take place, it should be decided by the Congress, not by the president. It's not in the hands of president. He has no absolute power to decide it. Okay, only the Congress has the power. And a federal law approved on Jan 25, 1845 has unambiguously set the election timing. So on Jan 25, 1845, a federal law was been approved. So according to that, only this can set the election time. So only this can set the election timing, and it can only be changed by passing a new law. It can only be changed by passing a new law. Such a law would need the approval of both the House of Representatives and the Senate, and would be subject to legal changes. So if this has to be changed, if this federal law to be changed, okay, it can be changed only by passing a new law. So such new law, it will need the approval of both the houses of the representatives and also the Senate, and it will have some legal challenges also. Okay, next is senior leaders have dismissed Mr. Trump's suggestion to postpone the election. Okay, senior leaders has dismissed his suggestion to postpone the election. So when you see what will happen next, so what is next? Okay, so what will happen is, so President Trump's first term is set to expire at noon on Jan 20, 2021. So on Jan 20, 2021, President Trump's first term is about to expire okay, at noon. So the 20th amendment of the US Constitution from March 4 to Jan 20, these dates cannot be changed. That is, from 20th amendment of US Constitution moved the beginning and ending of the terms of the president and the vice president from March 4 to January 20. So this dates cannot be changed. Okay, so 20th amendment has changed the beginning and ending of the terms of the president and vice president, and these dates cannot be changed. And ordinarily, if the presidency is vacant, okay, if the post of president, if the presidency is vacant, who will take the charge? Is absolutely the vice president. Vice presidents assume the charge. If there is no president, vice president will be taking up the charge. Okay, but here the term of both President Trump and also the vice president, both are getting expired on Jan 20 on the same day. Okay, the House Speaker is the next in line of succession. So if the presidency is vacant, vice president should assume the charge, and who is the next position is House Speaker. They should take up the charge either. Okay, so but when you see in case of yours now, the 2-year term of the current house is going to expire on Jan 3rd, okay, on the same year, okay, Jan 3rd, 2021. This 2-year term of current house is going to expire. So the speaker cannot assume the presidency now. Okay, so after that, who is next in line is the president pro tempore of the Senate, largely a ceremonial position. Okay, the next in line is the president pro tempore of the Senate, largely a ceremonial position. So according to the Article 1, Section 3 of the Constitution, okay, and you see the vice president is actually the president of the Senate, and the Senate should choose a president pro tem to act in absence of vice president. Okay, who is the president of Senate? It is vice president. If there is no vice president, who should take up the charges? President pro tem. Okay, so president pro tem, they should act in the absence of vice president at any cost. This is according to the Article 1, Section 3 of the US Constitution. Okay, so according to this, who is in the next in line is this president pro tempore. Okay, so the elections are not held in November, okay, for the 23 Republican Senate seats and the 12 Democrat seats, the current equation of the Senate would change. Okay, so if the elections are not going to held in November, okay, this election is going to take place for 23 Republican Senate seats and 12 Democrat seats. So the current equation of the Senate will completely change. Okay, if the election is not going to take place, and the Democrats would have a majority and they could elect a new president pro tem. Okay, so what will happen if the current equation of the Senate would change? Who will have the majority? The majority will default, it will go to the Democrats, and they would have the majority and they can elect a new president pro tem. Okay, so this is what it will happen. If the president post is vacant, it should be vice president. After that vice president, who is the next in line is House Speaker. After that is the president pro tempore. Okay, it is who is this president pro tempore is? It is the this president pro tempore is chosen president in the Senate, who is supposed to act in the absence of vice president. Okay, so if the elections are not going to held in the November, the current equation of the Senate would completely change. So the Democrats will take over the majority and they could elect the new president pro tem. Okay, so a presidential election has not yet been delayed ever in 244 history in the institution, not even during the Spanish flu outbreak in 1918 or American Civil War 1861 to 1865 or World War II. Okay, this president election has not been delayed ever. It has not been delayed in the 244 years of history, not even during the very difficult situations, during any crisis like Spanish flu outbreak or the American Civil War or during the World War II. Okay, this has not been delayed at any cost ever since 244 years history. Okay, that's all. Thanks for watching. Like this video and share it to your friends, and do subscribe our channel. Don't forget and join our Telegram channel link to get info about the daily current affairs. Thank you.